Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again, and let's check on the itinerary on what we're talking about today. We got a lot of stuff to cover, probably, so let's see what's up. just give me a sec here. Well, no, I already did that one. Okay, it has been brought to my attention that I've literally covered everything related to the One Piece story. Weird. Been doing videos for about 5 years relating to One Piece, quite a bit of them, in fact. I actually lost count after a while, but, okay, I guess that's it. Well, alright then. So, until the next chapter comes out, we're going to need a little bit of help here. Let's check some comments to see, let's see, oh, here's something. Jeremy, you should make a video about beards in One Piece. Who has the best beards in One Piece? Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. Although it's coming from Jeremy, my arch nemesis. Alright, so let's talk about beards today. Barry, you seem to be already ready to go here. I ran out of white craft foam, so I had to go with light blue. So he's Captain Bluebeard, Barry the Brick, of course. And over here we still have, Whitebeard's mighty stash / beard. It's both, okay? It's Whitebeard's mustache. It's also a beard, okay? You know what's really crazy? This isn't even, like, actual size, because Whitebeard himself is, like, over 6.5 meters tall. In American metric, that's, like, 21 feet tall, alright? You know what else is, like, 21 feet tall? I actually checked on this. The average height of a 2-story house. So if you live in a 2-story house, go outside and look at it, and just imagine that being Whitebeard and how tall he is. Like, right where your roof is, that's where Whitebeard's head would be, okay? His mustache would probably be even bigger than this, okay? Then there's also the mustache I have on the light switch over there to my closet, but haven't been able to remove it because it has some sort of weird gravitational... Okay, so yeah, mustaches and beards are very, very prominent in One Piece. Oda is certainly a fan of fine facial hair indeed. Now, if we're just going to do a video on the best facial hair in all of One Piece, there is no contest. It's Whitebeard, 100%. Yeah, there might be a few other characters that might sort of contend, like Roger. Roger has a mighty stash if there ever was one, but come on, Whitebeard. His name is Whitebeard, and he doesn't even have a beard! It's a mustache! That's how damn cool he is! Alright, I should mention that right out of the gate. That's sort of a meme, so I wanted to bring it up. But yeah, no, it's not like a translation error. I mean, it sort of is, but it isn't really. In Japanese, basically what you have is hige, which is the term for facial hair. That can include mustaches as well as beards, okay? So they don't have, like, a separate term for just the mustache and just the beard. It's one word, hige, okay? And so that's why Whitebeard's name in Japanese is Shirohige, okay? White beard. Or I guess it is technically a translation error because the accurate term should be, you know, white facial hair. But that doesn't really have as much of a ring to it. It's, of course, Whitebeard! And of course, the reason he named him that is because, you know, the historical pirate Blackbeard, Edward Thatch, existed during the 17th century, and Oda's writing a whole manga about pirates, so he's like, okay, I'm obviously going to take pretty much the most famous pirate in history, Blackbeard. I mean, there's a lot of other really famous pirates, but like everybody knows about Blackbeard. I'm going to take Blackbeard, historical pirate, and I'm going to turn him into the main villain of my pirate story, you know, creating the character Marshall D. Teach from Edward Thatch, which was the real name of Blackbeard. By the way, Thatch, the person that Blackbeard killed in One Piece, so there's the reference there. But of course, if we're going to have a character named Blackbeard, you know, Oda's like, I'm going to make a character that's like the opposite of that. So Whitebeard, okay? And then there's also Peachbeard and Brownbeard, and Barry is the mighty Bluebeard, alright? Now, when it comes right down, if you're still a little bit curious about, like, who would actually win in a mustache contest between Whitebeard and Roger, I know they've fought before, right? Like, Roger and Whitebeard have clashed before. Whitebeard with his mighty Naginata Murakumogiri. By the way, why is that not up here? I have that. Every video I do that involves Whitebeard, I should have that up here. Hold on. Snap my fingers to summon Murakumogiri. There we go, magic! I might have also shifted somewhere, but that's the power of my magic. Okay, so anyway, yes, Whitebeard used his mighty Bisento or Naginata Murakumogiri. Roger uses his sword Ace, and they clashed, and all the Conqueror's Haki is spewing off of them. Yeah, whatever. You could argue maybe Roger could have defeated Whitebeard in a straight-up fight. Even that claim might be a bit dubious. I think it's more of like they were on kind of like an even keel. Roger became more famous than Whitebeard because he's the one that found Laugh Tale and became king of the pirates. But in terms of battle ability, you know, if you take Whitebeard in his heyday and Roger in his heyday when he was, you know, not sick and they fought, I feel like sometimes Whitebeard would win, sometimes Roger would win. But in a mustache contest, when these two mighty men were put up next to each other in a mustache, facial hair, beard contest, whatever, I think Whitebeard would take that crown, would take the gold medal pretty much every single day of the week. And then he would put the medals on top of his mighty beard. I kind of wonder every now and then, you know, exactly when did Whitebeard decide to grow the mighty mustache, okay? Because we've seen him in the past when he was on, like, his first crew, and obviously he didn't have the mustache back then. He just had a long, flowing mane of blonde hair. But at what point did he decide, you know, I'm gonna grow a mustache. Not just any ordinary mustache, but the best damn mustache in the history of the world, right? There had to be a day where he made that conscious decision. Or, you know, it's like kind of like in One Punch Man when Saitama just trained so much over the course of 3 years, eventually his hair just fell out and he was like the strongest being in existence. Maybe it was something similar to Whitebeard, where Whitebeard was just training constantly, improving with his Haki and his Devil Fruit ability, and then one day he just woke up and he just had a giant mustache, and he was just like, this is incredible, this is true power emanating from this stash, right? Okay, and you know, we even saw this during Marineford, you know, where Aki Inu had to like magma punch it, remember? There was actually a scene where they had to tone that down in the actual anime, because obviously in the manga he takes out like a big chunk of Whitebeard's face, but I still think, some people think that that kind of diminished the impact, you know, because Whitebeard, you know, he only lost part of his mustache in that scene, but no, it's a big deal that he lost his mustache. I mean, yeah, he got part of his skull and face melted off in the manga. That's not important. You know, Aki Inu knocked off his mustache. That was the source of Whitebeard's power right there. So, you know, Aki Inu, he's going to be a threat. And he doesn't even have a mustache. He just has like a goatee. Is a goatee a mustache? I don't know. I guess we'll get into that discussion as we go further into the video. Anyway, aside from Whitebeard and Roger, and by the way, another thing about Roger to bring up really quick though, is that it was originally stated that it wasn't really his mustache, it was actually his nose hairs. So I guess we're going, you know, bo-bo-bo-bo-bo-bo-bo with this. Say what? Bo-bo-bo! Say what? Say what? Bo-bo-bo! Well, that challenge, stand up. Yeah! You know, I haven't watched Bo 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 in literally like a decade, and it's crazy the kind of stuff that sticks in your head, right? Okay. Anyway, that was the original premise, and if you go back and look at the original artwork for Roger, sure enough, yeah, his mustache is a lot more thin, and it does resemble like coming out of his nose, and his mustache is actually improved, and all the different variations that Roger has appeared in throughout the story, like at the beginning during the East Blue arc, you know, it's more of a thin mustache, and then when the Straw Hats arrive at Sabaody, and then Rayleigh's talking about Roger, you know, the mustache is a little bit more full. And then in the most recent backstory involving Odin, it's a very, very full, realized, true mustache. I guess it could technically still be nose hairs, like that was the joke, you know, but I think it's supposed to be just a regular mustache right now. But that's the situation with Roger and Whitebeard. I guess I also have to bring up Weevil, because Weevil has the same basic mustache as Whitebeard, and Weevil is supposed to be Whitebeard's son, but that is kind of up for debate right now. I like the idea that, in fact, Whitebeard is actually Weevil's father, but Miss Bakin is not actually Weevil's mom, and she's just, you know, manipulating him in order to, you know, use his brute strength to destroy towns and, you know, steal all the money and everything, apparently in the name of Whitebeard. It would make sense given the fact that, like, you know, Weevil is really strong. That can't be faked. You know, Weevil really is built like the Incredible Hulk, where he could just, like, stomp through a town down and just, like, obliterate it, right? Now, Weevil's mustache is a little bit different than Whitebeard's mustache. From what we've seen, it's a lot more, like, thin. It also makes me maybe think that, like, he doesn't naturally have that mustache. Maybe Miss Bocking literally just made, like, a fake mustache out of poster board or something, and then super glued it to Weevil's lip, and then when he woke up one day, he's like, "Mama, I'm Whitebeard's son! I got a mustache!" And Miss Bocking's like, "Yes, of course you are! I told you were Whitebeard's son, and now the mustache proves it! Now let's go steal all the money from all of his former allies!" Like, "Okay, Mama, let's go!" You know, so, you know, Weevil might have a similar mustache, but it's not as epic as Whitebeard's mustache. Even if Weevil really is Whitebeard's son, it doesn't hold a candle to it, I'm sorry. There's another mustache in Whitebeard's crew that's pretty epic, and it's actually resembling Roger's quite a bit, and that's, of course, the 5th Division Commander's mustache, Flower Sword Vista. Ah, look at that mighty stash right there. That is a stash of a swordsman! Zoro needs to grow a mustache, otherwise I just cannot take him seriously from now on. Anyway, something interesting. Vista did not always have this magnificent mustache, okay? If we go back during the Odin flashback when he was, like, in his, like, you know, late teen years, he did not have any facial hair at all when he fought against Roger originally, okay? And if you actually look at Vista and Roger's mustaches side by side, they're kind of similar. Like, they seem to be designed off of one another, one would say. So I think what happened was, Vista, he might have not have fought Roger directly, but he saw the battle. You know, they were on that island for like 3 days, and you got to see Roger and Whitebeard constantly clash against one another. I think Vista at that point realized what he had to do. I mean, yeah, Whitebeard's impressive with his Naginata, with his Murakumo Giri, but it's not a proper sword. Roger was swinging around Ace, and he was competing with Whitebeard himself. So I think at that point, Vista realized on his honor as a swordsman, you know, there's a certain code of ethics and honor that swordsmen have to uphold. You know, Zoro said it best, you know, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. But at that one point, Vista realized there was another code that had to be added to the annals of swordsmanship, and that is a swordsman must have a magnificent mustache. And so he decided to grow a mustache very similar to Roger's mustache. Even though Vista was on Whitebeard's crew, not Roger's crew, he knew what he had to do. And, you know, Whitebeard's feelings on the matter might have been a little bit complicated because, you know, this is Vista, he's on his crew, and instead of growing a mustache like Whitebeard, he grows a mustache like Roger. And so Whitebeard's like, "I don't know, but, you know, I agree with whatever mustache decision you want to make, Vista." And then so that's what Vista went with, and now he's known as the Flower Sword, known far and wide. So he has a pretty fantastic mustache, I must say. And so moving on now, actually, before I do, let me just mention that at the end of this video, even though I think Whitebeard does have the most epic stash in all of One Piece, I do have a character in mind who is, like, my personal favorite in terms of, like, the kind of facial hair that they're sporting, right? And so we'll save that person for the very end of the video, right? But before that, let's go through some other characters that have some prominent facial hair. Let's get the people with goatees out of the way right away. So first we got Shanks. Shanks even really barely has a goatee, to be honest with you. It's more of just like some 5 o'clock stubble that he just doesn't shave. You know, I'm sure Shanks could grow a pretty epic red beard if he really wanted to. It's just not his style. But aside from him, we also have Law. Law, of course, has the goatee. You know, it's pretty cool. He kind of reminds me of Dean from the Iron Giant. Remember that movie? Yeah, that was a good one. Weird reference, but there it is. Law is Dean from the Iron Giant. Okay, perfect. Yes. And then we have Blue Uno, of course. Blue Uno has sort of like a jagged, sort of diagonal kind of goatee, but it looks pretty nice, I guess. Then we have Mihawk. Mihawk is probably my favorite in this category, with like the goatee and the mustache, because his has like corners, like 90-degree angles in his mustache and in his goatee, right? It's very angular, which makes sense because he's a swordsman. Maybe he uses Yoru to, you know, give himself a shave, or maybe he takes out that little sword on his necklace and he's just like, ah, time for a shave. And then boom, that's how he does it. And it's just like kind of like T-Bone. T-Bone, you know, the captain, I think he's like a rear admiral right now, but he's like, you know, I despise crooked men and crooked sword play. So all of his sword techniques involve like very sharp, like right angles. And so, you know, T-Bone would approve definitely of Mihawk's, you know, facial hair in that particular instance there. Although T-Bone himself, I don't believe has any facial hair. So he needs to get on that. But yeah, those are like the prominent characters that have like a goatee. And And like I said, Shanks doesn't even really have a goatee. His is more of stubble, but that's okay because that's another category anyway. And you can't talk about stubble without talking about Capone Beige, the man that has the perpetual 5 o'clock stubble. And it's weird because, you know, he's like the mafia don, he's the mafia boss, and he even said, you know, to everybody, like, oh, you have to dress appropriately, you have to be properly groomed and, you know, practice good hygiene when you're meeting Father Beige, right? He doesn't let people just show up all, you know, like in ragged, ripped up clothing or messy hair or anything. You gotta dress the part. And yet, it seems like he forgets to shave more often than not. Or does he? Because then you start to think, wait a second, hold on. His son, Capone Pez, who's still a baby, also has the same 5 o'clock stubble that Beige has. Which means it's not like he just doesn't shave. That's part of Beige's genetics. Alright, he just has the 5 o'clock stubble. It doesn't matter if he shaves it. It kind of reminds me of the scene on The Simpsons. You know, there was a running gag on The Simpsons where Homer always has, like, the stubble. So sometimes he'll shave it and then it'll immediately, like, pop! It'll, like, grow right back as soon as that happens, okay? I've known people that, like, you know, they have, like, full, luxurious beards and then they'll shave and then, like, give it, like, 6 hours and, like, later that night and then it'll already be, like, you know, stubble kind of filling in again. And it's just like, wow, that's insane, right? So maybe it's something like that where Beige will shave and it'll immediately, like, pop back in. And so it's like, it's so powerful, it's genetic. Even his child inherited it, right? Okay. Let's see. But if you're talking about 5 o'clock stubble, you have to talk about the one that has the most prominent in the entire story, even more so than Beige, because it's way bigger than Beige's, is, of course, San Juan Wolf. San Juan Wolf is freaking huge. His head is shaped like an onigiri, like a rice ball or whatever. And, yeah, he needs to shave as well. So that's there for him. And then, you know, I also wanted to talk about the various beards. So we had Whitebeard, but we also had Blackbeard, and then Peachbeard, and then Brownbeard. Now, remember, Blackbeard did not have the title of Blackbeard until he actually defected from Whitebeard's crew. So Whitebeard was the first, all right? And I feel like, yeah, Blackbeard took that title because he's like the opposite of Whitebeard. And then also you have Brownbeard and then Peachbeard. Peachbeard might have taken the title from Blackbeard, like, because he was like a follower of Blackbeard, so he's like, oh, I look up to Blackbeard, I'm gonna take the title of Peachbeard. But Brownbeard was active, you know, long before Blackbeard defected from the crew. A lot of beards in these sentences, but it's a video literally about beards, so, you know, you have to understand that. Okay, anyway, so Brownbeard was around for a while before that, so he probably took that title because of Whitebeard. You know, it's like, oh, Whitebeard's the greatest pirate in the world, well, I'll be Brownbeard, you know, and then that's how he got the title, right? Fun fact about historical Blackbeard, Edward Thatch, is that he could not actually grow a really impressive beard. I mean, he had one, and he would actually tie his beard at the ends and then, like, light it on fire, sort of like sparklers or fireworks, to give the impression of, like, intimidation to the enemy. Like, holy crap, his beard is on fire! Blackbeard came up from hell itself to rob us of our booty! You know what I mean? Like, that was what the historical Blackbeard would do. He would have a bunch of guns on him, he would light his beard on fire, you know, you had to do what you had to do to intimidate back during the era of pirates, okay, in our world, right? But he couldn't grow, like, a super impressive beard, and Oda even incorporated that into One Piece, where when Blackbeard was a member of Whitebeard's crew, he really just had, like, the stubble. And then when we meet him at Jaya, he looks pretty much the same. And then when we see him a little bit later, like when Ace fought him at Bonaro Island, and he shows up at Impel Down a little bit later, slowly his beard begins to grow out a slightly more, because he's like, well, if I'm going to take the title of Blackbeard, I have to have something here. I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily a beard, it could just be a mustache, but I have to have something, right? And so by the time the time skip occurs, 2 years later, I'm sure he doesn't shave a single time. After all that time has happened, maybe he captured some kind of devil fruit that allows him to grow his hair more. Maybe it's possible. And now he has a pretty respectful beard right now, I would say. And he even ties it at the end, kind of similar to what Blackbeard did in our world as well. So this is the beard he's rocking right now. I think it works for him. But you know what? It's not my favorite. I still gotta go with, if we're just talking about Brownbeard, Blackbeard, and Peachbeard, I gotta go with Brownbeard. I like the original Brownbeard's beard where he actually tied it in the braids and he had like 3 of them coming off of his chin. So he took good care of his facial hair. You can tell, like, if there was ever a person in One Piece to create like beard cream or whatever, or do like YouTube videos on how to handle your beard, that would be Brownbeard. Now, he went through a lot of stuff after Hawkins defeated him, so by the time he shows up at Punk Hazard, the beard is a lot more scraggly. He hasn't cared for it as much, but hey, maybe he got back into it now, and maybe he's going going to live on Punk Hazard and rename it like Beard Island. I don't know. Come to Beard Island, matey. And then there's Peachbeard, which he seems to just be following a trend, right? He's like, well, there's Whitebeard, and there's Blackbeard, and then there's Brownbeard. Oh, well, I guess I'll dye my beard, peach. You know, it's just like, dude, you're trying too hard at this point, right? Like, are you that desperate for a gimmick? You know, it just doesn't work for you. You should have just went with something else altogether. So that's peach beard or pink beard or whatever you want to call them, whatever. You know, and then finally, well, actually, no, before we get to my favorite, let's talk about Treble, because I just put him down because if you just look at Treble here, I mean, I can't really tell if this is facial hair or if it's just his regular hair, because it just kind of like congeals together because, of course, he ate the Beta no Mi, the mucus fruit. So I'm not really sure. It looks very gooey, very drippy. All I can tell you is this: it is extraordinarily greasy. I mean, like, think of the greasiest food you have ever had in your life. The greasiest food. Like, you went to some, like, you know, crappy pizza place or maybe some dive bar somewhere, and you order the food, and they give it to you, and it's basically just swimming in it, okay? For me, there's been some places around here that have served some pretty greasy pizza, but when it comes to the most greasiest food, when I was working at Dollar Tree, we had like a freezer section, okay? And in that freezer section, there was some stuff that was really good, like the pizza rolls. That's what I would always have on my break at work. I would get the pizza rolls and nuke them in the microwave for like, you know, a minute and just like scarf them all down because I only had like 10 minutes on my break or whatever, right? I'd be like, oh, it's hot, but whatever. The pizza rolls were good, and there was some other stuff in there that was pretty good stuff. But we had these egg rolls. There were egg rolls, and then there were, like, lobster rolls, okay, that were frozen, okay? So one day, I'm like, all right, lobster. I like lobster. I like that. Okay, so I buy a lobster roll, and I put it on, like, 2 paper plates on top of, like, a paper towel, and I put it in the microwave, and I microwave it for what it said to microwave, and my God, it was solid grease. It was a solid mound of grease. Because as soon as it melted, as soon as it was defrosted, there was a pool of grease. It had soaked through the paper towel, through 2 of the freaking paper plates I had put in the microwave. There was a pool of grease in the microwave itself. I pulled it out, and I'm like, yeah, no, I am not putting this in my body, and I just immediately threw it in the trash and had to mop up all this grease. So, picture something like that, like the greasiest food you've ever encountered, and just imagine using that as shampoo for a week straight. That's where you get Treble's hair. But now, I think I've gone on long enough here, so let's talk about my favorite piece of facial hair in the entire One Piece story, and that is, of course, Silver's freaking Rayleigh. Yeah, look at this. Okay, the reason I love his little puffball of a beard and like the lines that come off of it is because in real life, that would look stupid. That would look stupid as hell. There's probably somebody out there that actually does have a beard like that. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, like, okay, it would be very, very hard to pull it off. You have to have a special chin shape and everything like that, and it would be difficult. It would be difficult to pull this look off. But Rayleigh, he doesn't just pull it off. He owns it, man. He's the only person in the One Piece world that has a beard like this, that shaves it like this, okay? And he's the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh, all right? He could slice you in half from like 5 miles away, all right? Nobody is gonna shit-talk this man's facial hair, okay? And it's very appropriate. I think, honestly, he didn't always have it like that, but he did have a beard that looked very similar to that, and maybe that's when Roger really knew that this was his first mate. Maybe there was a point there where they were sailing and Roger wasn't really sure about Rayleigh being his first mate, and then all of a sudden Rayleigh grew that beard, and he was just like, "Aye, Rayleigh, that is a fine beard you have there. Let us travel the 7 seas until one of us dies." You know, and then there you go, right? Okay. But, yeah, Rayleigh has the coolest beard, and in terms of, like, my opinion, best beard in all of One Piece, but when it comes down to, like, objectively, yeah, it's probably going to be Whitebeard's, right? Whitebeard versus Silver's Rayleigh in a beard competition. I'm sure those exist. I've never been to one, but I'm sure they exist, right? Well, anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. Truly magnificent. I kind of wish that by the end of it, I would just be growing a beard spontaneously just by talking about beards enough. Like, oh no, wait, oh wow, oh, it's crazy, I have a beard mustache. Actually, for me, it is a beard mustache. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I know this video was a little bit random, as implying that every other video I make is very strictly serious and well thought out. But now I actually had to make a kind of like a surprise trip out of town this weekend, so I have to fill like the gap with a few videos off the cuff. So here we are. Thanks to Jeremy for the comment, because I saw that and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. We're just gonna make some random One Piece videos from now on. Thanks for watching, everybody. Signing out.